The Crimean Bridge exploded, and now 8 ordinary Russians face life behind bars. A court in Rostov-on-Don has delivered its harshest verdict yet, accusing business owners, a farmer and a truck driver of helping Ukraine carry out the 2022 blast. But behind the glass cage, the defendants shout a different truth. We passed all polygraphs. We proved our innocence. There is no evidence against us. Russia hands down life sentences amid claims of innocence and political repression. A court in Rostov-on-Don has sentenced 8 defendants to life imprisonment for allegedly participating in the October 2022 explosion on the Crimean Bridge. The group, 6 business owners, a farmer and a long-haul driver, was accused of assisting Ukrainian intelligence in transporting and detonating a truck filled with explosives, an attack that killed 5 people. Russian officials claim the bomb originated in Odessa and was covertly moved through Bulgaria, Armenia and Georgia with falsified documents along the way. Despite these accusations, every defendant insists they are innocent. According to multiple reports, the men shouted their innocence from behind a glass enclosure as armed guards stood watch. Their statements were emotional, unified, and unwavering. "We all took polygraph tests. We proved our innocence," one of the defendants declared. "We cooperated fully. We went to law enforcement ourselves. No witness spoke against us. All the evidence says we are innocent. All 116 volumes of this case say we are innocent. Show people the truth. We are innocent." Among the convicted is 36-year-old freight company owner Oleg Antipov, who repeated that the group had done everything possible to clear their names, and that the system ignored it. This harsh ruling comes as part of a broader wave of prosecutions tied to Russia's war against Ukraine. On the same day, a man from Bashkortostan, Ernest Sharafutdinov, was sentenced to 13 years in a strict regime colony after being accused of passing information to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Service. Officials allege that he opposed Russia's invasion and contacted a Ukrainian intelligence officer in March 2024, after which he was supposedly instructed to conduct sabotage in Bashkortostan and Tatarstan. In a separate closed-door proceeding, 21-year-old Yana Suvorova, the administrator of the Telegram channel Melitopol is Ukraine, received a 14-year sentence on charges of terrorism, espionage, and involvement in a terrorist organization. Attorneys for the 8 Crimean Bridge defendants told the BBC that the group was a set of random people who simply happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They emphasized that 6 of the 8 were initially detained by the FSB immediately after the explosion, questioned and then released without charges, only to be arrested later as Russia sought to build a narrative around the attack. For many observers, the trial exemplifies the wider pattern of political repression and manufactured justice in wartime Russia. After the largest and most consequential attacks Ukraine has carried out against the Crimean Bridge on July 17th, the bridge was hit again, this time by explosive-laden, uncrewed naval drones that struck a support pillar and the roadway deck, severely damaging at least one span and halting traffic. Russia reported 2 civilian deaths, while Ukraine framed the strike as a direct blow against a vital military logistics artery supplying Russian forces in southern Ukraine. SBU chief Vasyl Malyuk revealed that the attack used the Sea Baby, a domestically developed naval drone, marking the first time Kyiv publicly described a tactical system employed against the bridge. Just after midnight on June 3, 2025, the SBU announced its third major strike on the bridge, an underwater operation targeting the substructure of its support pillars. Ukrainian divers, or unmanned underwater vehicles, planted explosive charges equivalent to roughly 1,100 kilograms of TNT and detonated them beneath the waterline. Footage released by Ukraine showed a powerful underwater blast shaking the structural foundations. Traffic on the bridge was halted for hours, and Russian authorities were forced to conduct urgent inspections and reinforcement work. Ukraine's navy said the attack hit the most critical and technically complex part of the bridge, while international analysts described it as the most sophisticated assault on the structure since the start of the war. The Crimean Bridge is not only a logistical artery, it is a political icon. And through these strikes, Ukraine has repeatedly challenged both its physical integrity and the Kremlin's narrative of permanence in the occupied peninsula. Ukraine's counterstroke at Kupiansk, a turning point that exposes Putin and Gerasimov's lies. Russian announcements celebrating the capture of Kupiansk have turned out to be entirely premature. What Moscow tried to portray as a breakthrough has instead become a dead end. Viktor Trehubov, head of communications for Ukraine's Joint Forces Group, explained that Russian troops pushed hard in early November, even fighting in the city center and attempting to advance south. At the time, it looked as if the balance was shifting. Gerasimov echoed this supposed success, but it was Putin who later amplified it, claiming a major victory. In reality, the situation flipped dramatically against them. Ukrainian forces swiftly severed Russian supply routes, leaving the invading units inside Kupiansk trapped in the northern districts. Their numbers are now shrinking, with reinforcements unable to enter the city because Ukrainian defenders are eliminating them before they reach the outskirts. Today, Kupiansk has become a tactical coffin for Russian forces. They are stuck, undersupplied, and steadily deteriorating. Meanwhile, Moscow is desperately trying to shift the narrative, insisting on encircled Ukrainian battalions, claims that have no evidence behind them. Instead of fighting effectively in the city, Russian troops are now trying to maneuver around it, attempting to bypass Ukrainian positions. None of these efforts have changed the strategic picture. As Trehubov summed up, Russia is deadlocked, and Putin's statements have no basis in fact. Just north of Kupiansk, the battle for Vovchansk tells a similar story. For 565 days, Russia has been trying and failing to capture the city. Units of Ukraine's 16th Army Corps are firmly controlling the situation, holding back relentless attacks. The Corps notes that every negotiation cycle triggers a surge of Russian propaganda. Yesterday, it was victory in Kupiansk. Today, Moscow claims triumph in Vovchansk. These information waves are crafted to create the illusion of success and weaken public resolve. But Ukraine's defenders describe the battlefield as it truly is. For most Russian troops, Vovchansk has become their final destination. For them, the army says, the words Vovchansk and death are already synonymous. Soldiers of Ukraine's 57th Ottoman Kost-Hordienko motorized brigade recently released footage showing what Vovchansk looks like after months of Russian destruction. The once functioning city, its schools, factories and churches, is now reduced to ruins. Russian forces have repeatedly staged propaganda videos claiming they raised the flag there, But the truth is stark. Nothing remains intact. Yet, despite the devastation, Ukrainian forces continue to hold the line. As the 57th Brigade stated, "The buildings cannot withstand it, but our fighters continue to defend." The new footage, filmed by the Murchiki Unmanned Systems Battalion, underscores the scale of destruction and the determination of those who refuse to let the city fall. Battles along the railway. Ukraine holds the line in Pokrovsk. Fierce battles continue along the entire railway line in Pokrovsk, where Ukrainian defense forces are stopping Russia from pushing further into the city. According to the 7th Rapid Response Corps of Ukraine's airborne assault forces, units, including the 425th Skelia Separate Assault Regiment, are conducting coordinated raids south of the railway. These raids are designed to set ambushes, disrupt Russian movements, and eliminate enemy troops before they can advance. Clashes are intensifying in the central districts. Over the past 24 hours alone, Ukrainian assault units destroyed 21 Russian soldiers. FPV drone operators are striking Russian personnel and equipment hidden inside buildings after Russian units relocated deeper into the city. These precision strikes are preventing Russian forces from fortifying positions or staging new attacks. Russian forces are trying to press into the northern part of Pokrovsk. They are attempting to regroup, concentrate manpower, and prepare for a new offensive phase, including attempts to establish satellite-based communications for their forward units. But every step forward comes at enormous cost. Ukrainian troops are tracking these efforts in real time and stopping them before they gain momentum. Russian forces are also using drones and guided aerial bombs to undermine Ukrainian logistics between Kostiantynivka, Druzhkivka, and Kramatorsk. These strikes aim to complicate the movement of supplies and reinforcements, but Ukrainian units remain adaptive, holding defensive lines and ensuring continuity of support across the region. How Huliai-Pole was saved. Ukraine's command decisions stop Russia at the last moment. Russian forces came dangerously close to fully occupying Huliai-Pole in Zaporizhia Oblast last week. But according to the Deep State Monitoring Project, the city was saved thanks to a series of urgent and well-coordinated decisions by Ukrainian commanders. These actions prevented a collapse on the front line and significantly slowed the Russian advance. After the loss of Poltavka and Uspenivka, Ukraine's assault forces urgently fortified new defensive lines south of Novouspennivske. At the same time, the 102nd Separate Territorial Defense Brigade was holding back the attacking Russian units. The situation worsened when Russian troops broke through Ukrainian units positioned to the left of the 102nd Brigade. Enemy groups infiltrated the flank and rear, creating confusion and fear of encirclement. One of the battalions of the 102nd lost command and control entirely, leaving soldiers without direction. Not knowing how to respond, nearly 2 companies withdrew on their own from the areas of Zelenyi High and Vysoke. Deep State notes that this unauthorized retreat caused chaos and even led to several cases of friendly fire before commanders could re-establish order. Once the situation was reviewed, Ukrainian commanders acted quickly. Covering groups were deployed, reinforcements from the 225th Separate Assault Regiment arrived, and elements of a mechanized brigade were rushed to the threatened sector. Right in front of Huliai-Pole, these units constructed a new defensive line under pressure. Their rapid work helped stabilize the situation before Russian forces could exploit the earlier disorder. Deep State now reports that the chaos has largely been eliminated, and the Russian advance toward Huliaipole has slowed significantly. A functioning defensive line has been established, giving Ukrainian forces space to regroup and regain control. However, the broader situation around Huliaipole remains tense. On November 15th, Southern Defense Forces spokesperson Vladislav Voloshin warned that Russia was attempting to push toward Huliaipole from the Pokrovske direction in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, aiming to isolate the town from key logistical routes. On November 16th, analysts described the situation as very serious, with Russian forces positioned only 4 to 8 kilometers from the town. On November 18th, regional authorities declared the security situation in Zaporizhia Oblast to be the most difficult since the full-scale invasion began. On November 20th, reports of Vesele being occupied surfaced, though the Southern Defense Forces later denied this. On November 26th, Ukrainian military officials confirmed the situation on the Huliaipole axis was difficult, but stressed that Ukrainian troops were not encircled. And on November 27th, Deep State stated that Russian forces had occupied Zelenyi High in the region. Huliaipole avoided occupation not through luck, but through fast, coordinated action by Ukrainian commanders and the resilience of frontline units. The danger has not passed. The area remains one of the most volatile in Zaporizhia Oblast. But the city still holds, and Ukraine has bought itself time to strengthen defenses before Russia attempts another push.